And good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and wherever you are. Welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al. Here I am with Elton John. Elton, how you doing? Okay. And what do you think of today's world? I don't know. How come I haven't been writing songs about it? I don't know. What's Bernie Taupin have to say? I don't know. Have you ever slept with the Queen of England? Uh, uh, maybe. Hey, how you doing? Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Here's a picture of Ireland, and the old crone lived right up. This was a road right up there, and this was Archie's castle right here. This was just between Skibbereen and Glendore. And here is Mary Boone. Mary Boone. This was at the Collaborative Artist Projects art gallery called No Say No on Rivington. This was a New York Times art guy. Here's Louis Tropia and me. And he was the godfather of punk music. He was an A&R guy for CBS Records. Here's me again. It's me about almost 40. It's me again, my video camera. It's Mr. Videographer of the art scene of the 1980s in New York and social situations. There's Marissa. He's the guardian angel of our housing. There's Garrick Beck. Here's me in another state. I was trying to teach people how to go into state, and I pretty much went pretty deep, right? And Garrick came over and like, "You okay?" And I was okay enough to take that picture. And there's Christine Barton with Frank. There's Frank, her dog. Christine Barton, the smartest human on earth. And here's my second wife, Rita. And the girl in the middle is Carrie Shea. She's helped start Brooklyn Academy of Music. And the girl on the other end there is Carrie Shea. She basically was the most powerful political fixer on the East Coast. And here is our little exotic garbage dump restaurant. And there's the building that is that. The whole inside of the building burned down and collapsed down to the basement and closed it up. And we just kind of put stone on top of it and then put the marble treads of the steps that were all over the place as our floor. And then routed it off, and there we go. Put some drains in there so we wouldn't have puddles. And we just had Sunday brunch. All the rich would come. We'd make about 5-6 grand every Sunday. There's Christine again. And there's my good buddy Jody and his two kids, James, right next to him, and Viv. Viv is one of the big lawyers in New York City. And her brother works for Jamie Dimon, and he's a billionaire. There's me and Rob. Rob was head of the psychology department at NYU, and he, you know, wanted to let go of neuroses, so we gave him a little nonsense. There's my wife, my one and only Donna Ann Adams, and she's juggling. We see the ball there. We've just got back from Australia. It's been 3 years in Australia. As Dave Id, never wants to lose his head. He was one of the five of us who were the junta of the housing coalition called OR, Outstanding Renewal Enterprises. And there's me on the beach, kind of naked, with Frank. Frank was, I found Frank tied to a tree, and his whole neck was bleeding because he was trying to get away. He was chained to a tree. Someone just left him there. There's my godson and goddaughter, and there's John. And John was a Pulitzer Prize poet. He was just a little bit gone. This is my David's and my Friday night salon. One of the originals of the Living Theater. And here's Rob and Melinda in Dublin at Trinity, celebrating the 2500th birthday of Dublin. And that's a life to be lived, right? She has a job. And yet, we find ourselves in a situation of this matter.
Now, oftentimes on the show, we talk about how immensely spineless the Democrats are, how they're basically a bunch of jellyfish, especially Democratic leadership, willing to kowtow to Trump,
But it's not so much their jellyfish. This is a scripted thing. They're playing their part of the demise. Nothing like this can happen without it being scripted. And, Donnie got in twice, not because people voted him in, because the hidden hand wanted him there.
try to do bipartisanship and negotiation, come hell or high water, despite the seriousness of the issue in question. Well, there's also another piece to this puzzle, which is that for as spineless Democrats are, I'm not sure I've ever met a more cucked bunch than Republican politicians. And the reason I say that is because literally anybody off the record will tell you, hey, all of these Republican politicians in D.C., they know that Trump is crazy. They know he's a psychopath. They know he's a sociopath. They know he's a madman. They know his ego is colossal. They know how narcissistic he is. They know how dangerous he is. They know how authoritarian he is. They know how dumb he is. All those things are true. They'll all tell you that. And they're all low-key sort of furious that their political future depends on this man, right? But you would think in a scenario like we're witnessing right now where everything's going to shit, some of them would have the common sense to be like, you know what, sort of fuck him and the horse he rode in on. Here's where he's wrong, and I'm going to take a stand. But no, as I said, they are the most cucked group of people in the country. They're the most cucked group of people in the country. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And they are, somehow, they managed to be even more spineless than the Democrats. And here I have a perfect example of that. This is a story that literally none of the Republican politicians wanted you to hear. Literally none of them wanted you to hear this. So as you all know, the other day, Chuck Schumer folded like a cheap lawn chair and said to Trump and MAGA, go ahead, man. Here, we're not gonna block your continuing resolution, your stopgap bill, which wasn't even really a CR because it had more conservative things in it than what would have been in a normal CR. But go ahead, we're gonna let it slide. Democrats were furious about that. The base is in revolt over that. Because basically this was your one opportunity to fight back against Doge, fight back against Elon, fight back against Trump and this insanity. But in this CR, listen to this. Republicans in Congress removing their own ability to undo Trump's tariffs in order to avoid taking tough votes on them. He's driving us off a cliff, and their reaction is to handcuff themselves so they can't grab the wheel. The party has become a rotten cult of personality. So here, let me read you this. House Republican leaders on Tuesday quietly moved to shield their members from having to vote on whether to end President Trump's tariffs on Mexico, Canada, and China, tucking language into a procedural measure that effectively removed their chamber's ability to undo the levies. The maneuver was a tacit acknowledgement of how politically toxic the issue had become for their party, and another example of how the all-Republican Congress is ceding its power to the executive branch. In this case, Republican leaders did so using a particularly unusual contortion. They essentially declared the rest of the year one long day, nullifying a law that allows the House and Senate to jointly put an end to a disaster.
One long day, and tomorrow, and tomorrow, and tomorrow, and tomorrow. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to Dreamy Dreamland. Been waiting for you guys to show up. Let's see, we're going to go to live chat here. And so it's pretty obviously we're being lockstepped into what happened to the German people in 1933, the Weimar Republic. Hey there, Janie Poo. And And basically, the Weimar Republic was the most democratic, liberal, highly educated, cultured political structure in Europe, right? And they didn't take part of the, crazy, wild 20s making money hand over fist like everybody else did because of what happened at the end of World War One, and it was Versailles, and it punished Germany mercilessly, right? And that gave a number of philosophers understood that Versailles was just a continuation. World War One would start up again sometime relatively soon, and it was World War Two, and 60 million people died, and just so some people could make some money. So we're in that situation, and basically we're being the United States would be what Germany did, and so we're going to. So what's happening in Ukraine is again a scripted gig. It's the war of the two Vlads, the stand-up comedian and the mushroom. Um, so basically, the issue of what Russia is complaining about could have been settled back in '92, right? And Iron Curtain had fallen, and Herbert H. was president, and we were going to have the peace dividend, and that all is going to be great, and we're going to have just open, free trade, and that was the mega of their time was free trade, right? And we sent all our manufacturing jobs up to Mexico and other China and Canada because it made more profits for the large corporations and the big banks, not for you, the worker. And here we are, right? So that was Act One. And back when Russia was like a pauper, oh, please, can I have some more? And Vlad, he was the impaler, and he got rid of the fat drunk, and and he got rid of the fat drunk years, you know, with Bill Clinton, not with H, right? Mikhail Gorbachev was still there, and they were getting rid of all the nukes and doing all kinds of great things and doing things together and da 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 da. So what happened to that? Right? Well, it was scripted to change the whole world over this way, and then so when Donnie came in '16 and blamed all the everything terrible going on is because of the immigrants from Mexico, come on, we're an immigrant country, and what Donnie said, people said in the 1780s and the 1820s and the 1860s and the 1880s and the 1901 to 1910. It would say over and over and over, divide and conquer, right? So that's where we're at, right? But what Donnie's doing is going to destroy America. I mean, he's going to get rid of. I live on $400 a year. I can live on $100. I mean, you know, that's why I did what I did. I sold everything and I live out in the woods and have a very pleasant life. And all the roads around have been destroyed, and they're going to get destroyed again. We're going to have some. We had some pretty wild weather in the last week, and it was right. I mean, we were right on the razor's edge. I saw the weather was like a pogo stick on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday last week, and then the weekend was. And then Monday and Tuesday were pretty, and Wednesday was nice. And here it is raining. Tomorrow should be nice. Windy, this next coming week could be crazy or it could be nice. Who knows? We're right on this edge because it either kind of goes up to the Ohio Valley or down to North Carolina and the East Coast. So, and the weather is being precipitated by artificial means, right? You just go weather control, go Google it, And so it's, there's HARP and there's a ton of other devices, and the major fires are, and you saw it in 2000 when 9/11 happened, and that image that was played over and over. Now you can't find it because it's the smoking gun. and you saw the two, not just one, but both of the World Trade Centers come down in a waterfall of dust that put asbestos over everyone in the Lower East Side, and that's why the cancer rate went through the roof. Wild weather due to sun's coronal ring. Yeah, exactly. And if you didn't know it or not, we can manipulate that sun. Yes, it's like 10,000 times bigger than Earth, but they found when they did the first hydrogen bomb tests out there in the Pacific, Mike and Shrimp and the other one, those hydrogen bomb tests, the first ones, the first one let off was 75% larger. They were expecting, I don't know, a couple kilotons, and it got 500, right? What the heck? You would think, and it was so much, it like rang the bell of the planet. Not only that, it rang the bell of the sun. And we have been doing time travel by using the sun. And it's been, when you do that, when you change the laws of physics, that kind can affect the, things in a big way. And they don't care. They just don't care. So get ready for this. And it's look how quickly, Donnie hasn't been in there, you know, so today's 21st. It's like about 25, 40 something days he's been president. Look what he's done. And, he's going after everything. And Elon's scraping all the data out because at a certain point, probably sometime between now and April Fools or between now and 4th of July, there's going to be an event that will wipe out all electricity, right? And Elon Musk will come in on the white horse, and he has his Starlink up there, and everyone will get a Starlink phone, and there'll be Starlink money, and Starlink healthcare, and Starlink education, and you'll get a little chip behind your ear, and you'll be a good citizen, and that'll all be in the next 6 months. And in this year, that's only one day. You heard it from our white-haired friend. The Republicans in the continuation of kicking the debt down the can, basically added all these really kind of things there, and one of them was time travelers don't give up. Yep, exactly. Yep, Solaronics. So the only thing that can stop this is community. Think globally, act locally. I mean, but everyone's like, here we had this tremendous catastrophe, right? And what was interesting that we had, towns and areas just scraped off the face of the earth where, on one side of the valley, a whole mountain was destroyed where people lived, and the other side, where they were building $1 million houses, wasn't even touched. And that happened again this week. And it's the liquefaction of the earth, right? People don't realize, what is water? Water is everything. That dirt, that rock that looks really solid, that's a lot of water in it. You are 98% water. You could be, just squeezed out if they want. So it's up to you guys, to get involved, to start, that's all of these things that I did, all these pictures I showed originally, all these things, a life lived, This was community. Here, this is one I'm always proud of. There's a mural I did in a weekend, right? Down in the basement of Quando. And I did it mostly with my fingers. And house paint. Anyway, so I'm not doing as many shows as I was because I'm not in the undisclosed location. I'm back in the deep green, and it's hard to get out of the deep, and all the roads are destroyed. And let's see. Do-do-do-do-do.
No, this is it. It's a construction site.
It's some main road that's totally obliterated. Here it is, March. This road got wiped out in September.
There we go.
So that's little bits of it's the man cave. It's me.
Hey! Oh, you think it's crazy now? Just wait. By April 1st, I would say 1 billion people on this planet will be dead, and another 3 will be quick on the way. Are you ready to dance? Are you? Are you ready to dance? Are you ready? What is that? Oh, woo! Yay! It's coming! It's coming! Woo! The big splat is coming! Woo! Onslaught. What do you think? Be more specific. You having fun yet? Is America great yet? Whatever. Like San Francisco. How you doing? Here you are with your Sensei Bob. Is something that would seem to be unconstitutional under relatively recent Supreme Court jurisprudence. There's a Supreme Court case from the 90s which says the federal government can't force states to enact certain laws they may not want to enact or to do it. Aspects of the deportation process that can take a long time. What do you think this is, huh? Is this snow? Snow. Sleet? A little bits of plastic falling from the sky. What do you think that is? Are you breathing in the other parts of it? Is it causing you cancer? Or debilitating your mental abilities? Is it why you can't get an erection? Or your clitoris seems like a piece of rubber? Reminds me of a Robert Frost poem about the falling snow, falling in my face, waking me up, reminding me that I don't have much to talk about. It ain't snow, guys. It's about 40 degrees out, right? And it's clearing. It's going to get cold, cold, cold. It's going to snow. And it's going to get icy. And we'll have and we're right on the line. This has already happened 2 more times. Last 2 storms that came through, we didn't get the snow. We didn't get the ice.
didn't get these little white snowflakes. They're not snow. These aren't snow. These are little things to wake you up, like Robert Frost said. Snowed in my face, woke me up. So here, all of these trees here, right? All of these trees. They basically exploded out of that hill. These are the really big trees. These other trees are like, 2 generations after these guys. But these were the big ones. And they exploded, and they were all over this road. They kind of just exploded out of the ground and covered this whole road from way down there all the way up, all the way out with big, gigantic trees. And stayed there for the first, 6-7 days. And then I came up here with my buddies and we cut a hole through it, which was pretty. And I didn't make any video things because my phone just wasn't working. But this road was in pretty good shape until the cockroaches started zipping up and down real fast, when it was icy and they were skidding and they were digging into the base of the road. So from up there to right about there, they kind of, and if we don't fix it today, or at least put what I'm putting in, I can barely walk. And this guy was going to help Tuesday, then he didn't show up, and I was waiting for him. And then, it's all chemtrails. How it feathers out. You gotta watch out for these guys. Chemtrailing everything. Anyway, this is the destroyed. Here's me in the White House with John Wayne and Carrot Head. Here I am in the non-disclosed location. This is how the road is so torn up. Since the event, since September when the Hurricane Helene came through here and obliterated everything, the developers have bought up all the properties that the Pokey folk had, and they're rushing to build houses. All of the roads, these are secondary roads. These are farm roads. These aren't state roads. This is the shape that our roads are in all over. And if I took the time to stop at every inch of the roads, the 50 or so thousand miles of secondary and tertiary roads, this is what it looks like. The state and county have done nothing for 5 months. September, October, November, December, January, here it is February. And that's because 321, which was the state federal road going
north-south got washed out. And the rich people, the developers, want it replaced with a 4-lane highway, which is going to cost $2 or $3 billion. And they'd much rather have their big trucks come up and down this road. Tractor trailers come up and down this road. And someone who lives around here has just thrown some stone on the road up here.
And that's what all our roads look like. And the main ones are washed out. It's like, and they're not going to be ready until next year. And so the poor guys like me can't get from here to there. So that's not just here. Kentucky, I have a new girlfriend who's a superhero. She works for Samaritans First, and she's one of the state leaders of that organization. And she works in the southeast corner of Kentucky. That's just they've had tornadoes and fires and chemical explosions and flood after flood after flood. And good old marble mouth Mitch Connolly has done nothing to help them. Right, it's made it worse. And so that was the B plan. Like been going on there now 10 years. So to show what America's going to look like, go look at that part of Kentucky. Anyway, so she took me up there about 3 weeks ago, and she comes and visits me in the deep green, and she's a triple Virgo, so everything has to be neat and clean. And she goes in the man cave, and it's like, and she told me that she's never felt any more calmer than being with me out in deep green. And she goes, I don't understand. I said, well, it's pretty simple. You are your whole life, you've been in control. You were in the military and you were in control. You were married and you ran it like the military and you were in control. You run that organization, you work for it, and you're in control. Come here, this is so unbelievable that you can't even think about what would be the first thing to take control. And because there's the chaos of my stuff and the unbelievable beauty of the deep green. I mean, it controls itself. I mean, I kind of cleared things up and sculpted it 25 years ago and put in little bushes, and now they're big, gigantic bushes and trees and stuff like that, and everything's just growing like happy-go-lucky. But then the cockroaches showed up in 20 and bought up everything, and then started ripping and tearing, and then the event came, and they can't even get to where I'm at, so it's going back to being quiet again. So she came there and was quiet and nice, and one night it was 40, so I have a couch out in the forest that's a bed, so I pulled the bed out, some big outerdowns on it, and we slept outside, and she couldn't believe what a great night's sleep she had. We woke up to the birds, and that's the way it should be, and that's why I live out there, and that's why I've been up. So 3 weeks ago, so she came and visited, and we went to Kentucky, and then she brought me back and spent another 2 days. She can't take more than 2 days of uncontrollable bliss, and she goes back, and the women in my life. Let me show you some of my life. Here's Mary Boone, big time art dealer. You can just see how she's looking straight at me, and what do you think she's thinking in that look towards me, right? Let's see. Here's Donna Ann McAdams, my first wife, the only wife I had on the books. And here she is juggling. We just got back from Australia. So what do you think? You see the ball up there? And these three girls, so this is my second wife here, my true love, Rita. And look at her face. Look at all their faces. What they're looking at me. Look at Carrie, right? She's probably known me the longest, right? And she is the most powerful. That's her limousine. Sarah, the one in the middle, who helped start Brooklyn Academy of Music, is the off-duty police sergeant detective who's always been Carrie's security and chauffeur. Anyway, and then we went and had brunch in or hour, I should say, because it wasn't just me who did this. But this was the Surreal Cafe, because this is the outside of the building. It's what the restaurant looks like on the outside, and this is on the inside. Everything burnt out. It was a concrete building, and everything from the roof came down into the building, into the basement, and we kind of, pulverized it, put stone on it, and all of the treads of the staircase, about 300 of them, were marble. So we put them in the gravel, and then we, put concrete between them, and that was the floor. And that was our little front side. So we'd make $3 to $5 grand. We were open from Friday evening till Monday morning. Let's see. We're looking at girlfriends. Oh, yes. Here is Stephanie Shu. Look at the look. Right. Here's Stephanie. Stephanie was a model. She was also the second chair in Lincoln Center's orchestra, cello. And she spoke about 4 languages. And she was on the cover of Sports Illustrated swimsuit magazine. That swimsuit thing that Sports Illustrated does. She was on the cover 5 times, only one ever. And she was also a underwear ad model. So anyway, that was my girlfriend. That's the level of girlfriends I've had. Oh, yes. Here's Christine. Oh, here's a good guy. Here is what's her name? Popping in my mind. But here is John Cale, the Velvet Underground, and there's Yosh, a Mossad assassin who was sent to kill me. And we were in the Weiser's bookstore, John and I, and John said, "Hey Al, don't turn around, but there's this guy really eyeing you. I think he wants to kill you." And so, I just turned around and went over to him and said, "So you're from Mossad? Are you here to kill me?" And he was like, I said, "Listen, you haven't as yet. We've been watching you for the last 2 days. And what's up? Let's go in the back room." Back room? I said, yeah. Why should have back room? People who are part of the club get to go back there and have really good pastries and really great Middle Eastern teas. And so we went back there and had tea. And why he didn't kill me is because those 2 days that he was following me, John was with me. And John is like a brilliant guy. He knows everything about everything. And he's really into history and warfare and technology and space and time travel and you name it. So that's why I'm his buddy. Right? So, we took Yost home, and John's new wife looked at, her gay radar went up and said, your buddy here, your assassin buddy, he's actually gay. And he goes, and it was just three of us. So she took him back and gave him a total new look, right? And that was, this is Judy Collins. That's who this is. This is Judy Collins. It's when I was the Emmy at Carnegie Hall. And she was supposed to, have security and everybody, and no one's watching out for her. She was the main gig there. And so I took her under my wing. And she thought I was the cat's meow. She's probably in her 50s in that picture. Here's Kristen, smartest human on planet Earth. Look at that little smile. What do you think she's thinking? So that's the women in my life. I've been. Oh, here's another good picture. Here's. Yes. So this is when I was a New York City housing authority police officer. I was their conflict resolution officer. Like, they had, I don't know, 1,800 officers, and I was the only conflict resolution officer. And my partner was this young lady right here. Right? And this is a show we did in when we first took over this place. Here's my two business cards from that period of time. Quando was the name of this place. It was an old public school, and then the Jews took it over for a bar mitzvah hall, but it was an old school. Santo Danini and a bunch of us did a show there. The first show was. Here's one of my 128 electrical guys, right? But here's Mike Curtin. Mike and I were the two young. Oh, there's my sweetie again. She's my partner. She wasn't my sweetie. She's my partner. And she had been the first woman to graduate from the U.S. Army's Ranger School. And she's such a badass. And everybody scared of her, so they made her a master sergeant there. And so, we were the ultimate in good cop, bad cop, because she was like ready to kill anybody. I was basically the negotiator. And so here's that young man who I said was my electrical helper. Here he is, all cleaned up because of the opening of the show, because he wanted to be an artist. And he was an artist. This is some of his art right there. Right? This is down in the bowels of Quando. So this is a life lived. That's what we need to do more of, and less wars and killing. Because like I said, because basically what I see is going to happen in Ukraine is nuclear war, right? Limited nuclear war. But I don't know which is going to be the first to use nuclear weapons. Israel, just to get rid of the, because, the Palestinians won't give up, no matter how much they kill or killed and martyred, they're not going to give up. And there's 2 million of them, so the only way to get rid of 2 million cockroaches is nuclear weapons. So I'm not quite sure who's going to use nuclear weapons first, the war in Ukraine or in Gaza. But once somebody lets one go, a number of people are going to let other people have agendas, and they'll just use that as the excuse. And one of the people are going to get hit. And we're going to be hit by ourselves. There are going to be people who will basically shoot a missile straight up in the air and detonate it maybe 60 miles up there, and it will fry every silicon chip in North America. A good chunk of Canada, a good chunk of Mexico, all of the United States. And if your facility isn't a Faraday cage around it. It's going to be so nobody's cars are going to run. No television, no internet, no electricity. None of the above. And then America will, just de-evolve into eating each other's legs, and it'll be like the Night of the Living Dead. And then Elon Musk will show up, and he will have, wireless transmission of electricity, and Tesla cars will be able to run without having to be plugged in, and he will have all these underground cities that the rich have, before things really get bad, will end up in. But who wants to live in your septic tank? And it's going to be fun, I tell you. The only way this can stop, because it was stopped by culture and love in the 70s and 80s. And then the 90s happened with Bill to rejigger it into one big free-for-all of the peace dividend of making rich richer and having free trade, and so you could buy really cheap crap at Walmart. So there's two of you there. Someone sums up. It's 46 minutes into the show. So what do you think? How you doing? Let's go back to this guy.
Disaster declared by the president. House Democrats had planned to force a vote on resolutions to end the tariffs on Mexico and Canada, a move allowed under the National Emergencies Act, which provides a mechanism for Congress to terminate an emergency like the one Mr. Trump declared when he imposed the tariffs on February 1st. So do you understand what happened here? Trump says, I'm doing all these tariffs, and Congress doesn't get a say because there's an emergency. I, the president, am declaring an emergency. So here's the tariffs on Mexico, here's the tariffs on Canada, here's the tariffs on China. And then what the Democrats did is they looked at the legislation and they said, okay, he can do that, but we could also demand a vote within 15 days where we can say the emergency's over and we're going to roll back the tariffs, right? And they were planning on doing that. Republicans didn't want to be on the record and vote against Trump's tariffs. So what they did is they slipped into this. Oh, by the way, the rest of 2025 is actually one long day, so we'll never get to vote to roll back these tariffs. So let's leave it all in the ball in Trump's court and let him do whatever he wants. Well, guys, guess what? We're witnessing the fruits of what he wants. We're seeing the stock market is collapsing day in and day out. He put the tariffs on, he took the tariffs off. He put the tariffs on, he took the tariffs off. The market is collapsing because there's zero stability, zero certainty about the future. Investors are running scared. And then the other thing is there's probably an element of corruption here and inside on the market to fall, shorting the market so Trump and his robber baron buddies can make money right before he rolls the tariffs back and expects everything to be okay. Well, it's all fucking catching. The Republican Party views themselves as the party of Ronald Reagan. One of Ronald Reagan's top issues was so-called free trade, anti-protectionism. Donald Trump is issuing in insane levels of protectionism, where he's doing universal tariffs across the board, which is just economic suicide. And the party of Reagan, which sucked off free trade for a generation, is now like, bro, we're not going to stand up for free trade and vote for free trade. In fact, what we're going to do is handcuff ourselves behind our own backs and just say, Mr. Trump, you make all decisions. We love you, dear. Look at how pathetic this is. Look at how disgusting this is.
It's
even
scripted.
on an issue
It's
where it wasn't that long ago,
it's
bro.
Scripted. It's
You
scripted.
go back to 2015,
Hidden hand
2016,
control, not down.
and listen to any Republican talk
No
about
one really
tariffs, talk
talks
about
about
protectionism, and talk about free trade. Every one of them said the same shit. Let's do maximal free trade in every way, shape, and form. Now, they all flip on a dime. Why? Because the cult leader says, you got to do this. And even though they know better, they say, shit, let me just dodge accountability completely and say, oh, look, we don't have the ability to vote on this to overturn it because, tee, we made the rest of 2025 one long day. Tee. Does it get any more humiliating than this? And watch, they will refuse to come out and speak out against anything he does. Look, I told you guys this before, but the reality is these politicians need to be more afraid of the resistance than they are of MAGA. And until we hit that tipping point, they will continue to act like this. Right now, they fear more a couple mean Trump tweets and some angry MAGA people showing up at their house. They fear that more. Well, we're in the process of trying to reverse that with these town halls where anybody and everybody, Democrat, Independent, Republican, is reaming Republicans and ripping them a new asshole because of just how much they've cucked themselves to Trump, just how much Elon Musk is slashing the regulatory state, slashing healthcare, Social Security, etc. So there's going to be a tipping point where that reverses and they go, shit, I'm more scared of the resistance. And then you'll see them stand up to Trump. But until we get to that point, they're coasting off the momentum of the entire Trump era now. And they feel like he really is Teflon. There's nothing we can do to fight back. And they are sort of locking themselves in to unending support of the psychopath at his worst, most manic moment. So let history judge this accordingly, bro. That as of right now, he when he said I could shoot somebody in the middle of Fifth Avenue and get away with it, as of right now, not a single Republican in Congress, except maybe Thomas Massey, would say, hey, man, I'm against that. I'm against that. So from now on, behind the scenes, off the record, oh, they're actually really upset with him and they know how terrible he is. Fucking spare me. Unless you're going to say something publicly, you can right the fuck off. Right? Because this is giving away power that we could have averted a market catastrophe if they just had the balls to be like, no, we still agree with Reagan. We don't agree with you, Trump. We're going to say no universal tariffs. We're going to take away the emergency declaration. Because also, by the way, really, there's an emergency with Canada and Mexico? Because, oh my God, there was like an ounce of fentanyl that got in the country. Shut the fuck up. This is so fake. It's all so fake. There's no fucking emergency. You made it up. Just like he said, oh, we're using the Alien Enemies Act of 1789 to deport Venezuelans. Meanwhile, you don't have a declaration of war with Venezuela. You can't use this wartime authority. He's like, I don't care. We're using it.
No, I'll take a large.
Can you even try to make sense? No, they're going full authoritarian, full fascist, and they're not even bothering to come with reasonable cover stories, right? So let me give you one more while we're talking about this here. Look at what Trump came out and said. The pardons that sleepy Joe Biden gave to the unselect committee of political thugs and many others are hereby declared void, vacant, and of no further force or effect because of the fact that they were done by auto pen. In other words, Joe Biden did not sign them, but more importantly, he did not know anything about them. The necessary pardoning documents were not explained to or approved by Biden. He knew nothing about them, and the people that did may have committed a crime. So what he's saying is all the people on the January 6th committee, all the people that Biden pardoned his last couple days in office, he goes, I'm not accepting that. I'm not abiding by that. I'm going to go after these people, and there's nothing they can do to stop me. That's what he's saying. He says, therefore, those on the unselect committee who destroyed and deleted all evidence, this is all made up, by the way, obtained during their 2-year witch hunt on me, and many other innocent people should fully understand that they are subject to investigation at the highest level. The fact is, they were probably responsible for the documents that were signed on their behalf without the knowledge or consent of the worst president.
What this guy is talking about is that this guy named Jamie Dimon, he owns the largest investment banking thing there is, but what he does also own that most people don't know is he owns the largest private army in the world, right? He has his own Navy and Air Force and Army. And these guys aren't held by any constriction of rules, right? And they're used as private contractors all during Iraq and Afghanistan and other places in Africa and Syria. They, the United States government was using private contractors, and they weren't building like kitchens and bathrooms. And so all of those people that Donald let go from January 6th are being brought into a new militia that will be Donald's version of the brown shirts. And that should be interesting. And they're getting rid of the army. They're getting rid of the oh, that's our boy. Let's see. There you are. What's shaking? We're live. Nope. Okay. I'm in a place where I can receive a phone call, but it doesn't click on. So who knows? Anyway, so you're soon to be seeing, like what happened up there at Virginia College there. I always forget the name. You know, where all the Proud Boys were marching with their tiki torches. You know, I love the fact that they're going after individual kids at Columbia because they were, didn't want people getting, genocided, and whereas the other guys were all about putting people into, something will not replace it. Something will not replace it. Something, I'll say who, but something or someone. Yeah, those guys aren't going to replace it. We're going to put them in ovens, and all that stuff that those something people said that on October 7th, babies being put in oven. I mean, come on. Let's see. UFC is supposed to train our military. Yes, exactly. You see the black church gain copyrights to Proud Boys. I love that one. Yes. So see that when you have humor and creativity, that can and love, you can knock down any boogeyman. You know. So we just have to watch out for our own our ego is getting in the way. So, what else you got to say? What can we do to change things? I keep saying, hey, look at all the stuff I did in the 70s, 80s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. I went corporate in '03. I thought I could do more good on the inside of the monster. And, I sure had a good time. Say that, made some money. And I did, change a few people. But right now, all I can do is talk to you guys and do little things around here and watch the grass grow. So I have to say that it's all good. It's not raining per se, but it's gray. So anyway, what's shaking in your land? How's the weather? By sleeting here. Where is he in Bay City? Is that New Jersey or California? Michigan. Yes. You guys got hit pretty hard this winter. A lot of snowstorms, a lot of cold. It's not like you guys aren't, used to it or made of it, or you're the only guys I know who go out in 20-degree minus weather to go fishing. Well, some of those fishing houses I've been in were pretty. They have big screen TVs and heaters and 70 yesterday. Wow. Oh God. I know. It was Saturday afternoon. I was sitting on my front lawn and I was watching because I'm down in a holler, so all these mountains are all around me. So there are little slices I can look through, right? East, west, north, and south, and basically rolling. Yep, that's our boys. So I was looking up to the southwest, and tornadoes, and it was hail the size of softballs, and they were breaking trees. It's like, and it was just like maybe 4 miles that away, right? And it was coming towards me, and it hit the mountains and went south, and another part of it went up north towards the Ohio Valley, and then the sun came out underneath me, above me, and it was hotter than hot, like a microwave oven. Like Jane was talking about, the sun is going through issues. I mean, one little X-flare. I mean, those suckers pop off the corona all the time, 4 or 5 a day, but it's so big, it has to be like right at us for it to really affect us. But it's happened before, when the mud flood occurred in the 1870s, and then in the 1880s, another X-flare hit us, and it electrically basically fried we had no electric anything, or very little, and the only real electric stuff we had was the telegraph. and they got fried. That's what gave the Mr. Bell was just about to put in the phone lines, and people said, "Why? We got telegraphs. We don't need a phone." And they didn't have a telegraph, so there they are. Thank you, darling. French fries. Ooh, look at those. This is the moment to eat them when they're hot. Ooh, yeah. Salt and pan for you. Just don't eat a lot of it. And ketchup. Okay, there we go. Ooh. Yum. Mm. Um, let's brainstorm here, gang. Anyone who wants to read any of my writing, send me your email. Happy first day of spring. Yeah. Mm. Yesterday was toasty, and it's French fries are really good when they're hot. Once they cool up, it tastes like cardboard. Mm. When I had a restaurant, I had a tilt skillet, which is like, the size of a football field. And I made these French fries. A hobo once told me, you take the, cheapo fried frozen fries that you buy wholesale, like a 50-pound bag, and you put them in the tilt skillet, and fill it up with water, really salted water, really salted water. Cover it, go here, and let it stay there overnight. Take them out, put them on a big, like, very absorbent paper, and you dry them up as best you can, and then you put them in the freezer, right, overnight. Then you put a lot of oil in the. You either have a fryolite or I had a tilt skillet, which is that size football field. Those to fry or to take lots of stuff. I only had them because that's pretty much the only. I did have a 6-burner Garland stove with 2 ovens and this tilt skillet. That was it. Oh, and the refrigerator. And a casket freezer. Anyway, so you put them in the salt water, then you dry them off the best you can, then you freeze them, then you throw them into the fry. And boy, are they good. There were days, that's the only thing I sold was French fries. French fries and onion rings. And cheese slices. Always hard cheese. Well, I have so many different titles. I am the cultural provocateur art party ringleader. That's one of them. Let's see. Where's my book here that has Let's see. It's on the license electrical, industrial, commercial, residential, theater, and discos video production of potato oil, photography, portraits, portfolios, acting, nude specials, wedding occasions, all jobs accepted, nothing too big or too small. It's the License Master, it's the Institute of Adept and Appropriate Technologies, Executive Director. Yeah. Pluggy Boom Boom, Light Mystery. When I was with the Circus Oz, we went to Manila in the Philippines. And there's this funky theater. It was the only place we could find to do our show. Because they wouldn't let them, we couldn't get the tent into the country. So, and we couldn't find a tent big enough that we could rent. So we did this. So we rigged our one ring circus into the theater and put all our rigging all through the theater of our high wire and our people throwing themselves through the air up on one. Anyway, we had to have before we could have a show, we had to let audiences in. We had the guy, the safety building inspector guy come in. He looked out. I gave him the tour, showed him everything. And he was peak experience, right? And he said, well, you did a great job because we basically, a theater had been open commercially as a movie theater, but they always bribed the guy. So there was really only one way in through, the main entrance, right? So you had to pay to get in. The other exits were boarded up. And, well, then we broke them. And so, we had like 8 fire escapes for the audience. Pretty much everybody was in the audience was no more than 20 steps to get out of the building. He was like very impressed by that. And the fact that I basically took all of our lighting and went straight to the mains and came, big cable to distribution and circuit breaker panels that we brought with us because their electric system was so god awful that it could start a fire any second. I mean, bare wires and all, it was terrible. And I had no exit lights and no emergency lights. I put those in, and he looked at the place and was go, wow, and he saw how we rigged everything, and he was quite impressed. Everything was super duper safe. And he said, well, you guys are the best, but that's, I still want $50,000 bribe to let you, even though you did a great job and I'm really impressed, and you really are thinking about the audience and not just yourself. Okay. So we don't have the cash for that, but we're about to do a run through of our show. We just wanted you to say that was okay to be safe. So we're not going to have an audience. We're going to do a run through. You're going to sit here and watch. And he was enthralled by what we did. I said, we're going to have 100 shows while we're here. And you can bring each of those shows, you can sell 50 tickets or give 50 tickets away to friends and, people you want to impress, etc. But that's as good as we can do. And he went along with that. So he became part of the gig. He loved the after, he came for the after show party. It was like, Saturday Night Live. I went. So we had matinees every day, and we had night shows Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Tuesday, Wednesday, we had no night shows. So he's the guy who called me. And Pluggy Bum Bum was my younger sister. I was the youngest, but the three sisters, two sisters I had, the youngest one, kept blowing stuff up, and she'd always kept ratting me out. I'll be Pluggy Bum Bum. You know, so. As an infant, the first thing I did after like figuring out how to rock my cradle, so it would tip over and I could crawl out of it. I found a butter knife and went over to the electric socket and stuck it in there. I wasn't even 1 year old, and I was in a onesie, and I wasn't really grounded, but I was getting a nice little tingle in my genitals, and that's when I fell in love with electricity. Right? One's left. We have one. Oh, look at that! 11 minutes. 1 hour, 11 minutes, and 11 seconds. Anyway, let's go back to what these guys are saying here. Let's see what these guys have to say.
You could increase your monthly income by following my stocks. Why not join my WhatsApp group?
Today we will discuss how Ukraine has experienced a surge in foreign volunteers joining the fight in the wake of significant policy shifts by the United States. Across the world, thousands of individuals, many of them veterans, have been driven by frustration and a sense of duty to take direct action, traveling to Ukraine to take a stand against Russian aggression. In the past weeks, the Trump administration made a controversial pivot in its foreign policy concerning Ukraine. This included a temporary suspension of military aid and intelligence sharing, coupled with a lack of commitment to future support. This retreat from long-standing alliances has put European nations on high alert, creating potential implications for regional security. Media reports have suggested that Trump is considering a dramatic shift in the involvement in NATO, refusing to defend other member states if they don't meet the defense spending threshold. In response to these developments, countless individuals from various countries have taken matters into their own hands. Moved by a sense of duty and solidarity, they have traveled to Ukraine to support its defense against Russian aggression. This mobilization underscores a global rejection of the US administration's perceived abandonment of Ukraine. Foreign volunteer groups have been instrumental in Ukraine's defense, the most prominent of which is the International Legion, which was established shortly after the war started, to integrate foreign fighters into the Ukrainian military, with soldiers coming from across the world. Ukraine's foreign legionaries have already participated in numerous operations along the front lines, such as the 2022 Kharkiv counteroffensive, the battle for Bakhmut and the subsequent fighting around Chasiv Yar, and defending the Kremina forest, to name some examples. One of the most prominent Ukrainian units, the Azov Brigade, which was originally a volunteer militia itself, has already incorporated foreigners into its ranks as instructors, with some actively engaged in various combat operations, notably in the defense of key strategic locations like Toretsk. Recently, they announced a new initiative to form an international battalion and have received a massive spike of applications, according to an international serviceman involved in recruiting. The source, who spoke anonymously due to his unit's regulations, said that multiple thousands of applications flooded right after the Oval Office meeting between Trump and Zelensky. The third separate assault brigade has been used in some of the most dangerous areas of the front line since its founding, like Avdiivka, inflicting significant losses on enemy forces. The brigade continues to actively engage in combat operations and is now forming 2 international battalions.
General, it's great to see you today.
Thank you, Jason. Thanks for the opportunity.
So, General, there's been a lot going on recently, and I was really curious how you were interpreting the events. As you saw recently, Ukraine was forced out of Kursk, Russia. Almost totally. They're still there in parts, but it seems that they've lost a lot of what they held for already months. A lot are saying, though, the real reason that happened was simply that the U.S. had cut off intelligence at the same time that it cut off weapon supplies to Ukraine. What do you make of that? Is that true? And does that seem like what the U.S. has done historically to put pressure on its allies is to cut off the intelligence that it's sharing while they're in a hot war?
Well, if they're allies and you want to help them, you don't cut off aid, you don't cut off intelligence. You can apply pressure in other ways, but to do something that results in the death of Ukrainian, in this case, Ukrainian soldiers, you have to wonder, well, how does this advance America's strategic interests? I mean, how does this help us? Ukraine was in there, and of course, since last August, one of the most, I think, effective strategic moves made by the Ukrainian side of the war. It accomplished a lot in terms of changing the narrative of Russian invincibility. It created strategic problems for the Russian side, and the Russians had tried for months to eliminate this bridgehead, but they never could. And then all of a sudden, at about the same time that the U.S. administration cuts off intelligence, cuts off aid, the Russians are able to accomplish what they had not been able to do for the previous 6, almost 7 months. I can't prove that there was a direct causal relationship, but it's certainly, unfortunately, based on what the administration has been doing and saying the last several weeks, it seems entirely plausible that that's what caused it. As you know, having to withdraw under pressure is.
So, again, this is all scripted. And, the stand-up comedian in Ukraine, he goes along pretty much with whatever it is. That thing, that, unbelievable shitstorm in the Oval Office with Vance and a comedian, it so looked like a scripted show, right? Looked like one of my TV shows in the 80s on Manhattan Cable, out of Potato Wolf. Anyway, we used to have a show called Between the Lines, that we took everything from the Wall Street Journal and just kind of rewrote it